Hello and welcome to Leadership Pathway. My name is Dave Miller. I'm the co-founder. Leadership Pathway is all about helping churches find and develop and sometimes even hang on to young leaders. We've got this thing in our kind of in our DNA of helping young people get into ministry. If they can get through year two, maybe they'll get to year five. If they get to year five, maybe they'll make it into their 30s leading in a local church. That's our passion. That's the problem we're trying to speak into and fix in our own little way. There's a bunch of us out there helping the next generation, and sometimes we help second career people as well. I had one of those conversations today. But my guest today is, I'm going to say, a longtime acquaintance. Is that right? It's like we
Yes.
bump into each other about once a decade, and I feel like it's my uncle. We need to sit by the fire and have a long conversation. And we crossed paths. Now it's been decades, right, ago, and kind of struck up a conversation. And if you know my story at all, you know there aren't a lot of professors who I hang out with in my life. So this is a unique. This is a unique conversation, and this has taken a few months to get to this conversation, and I'm just so appreciative. You're going to give me a few minutes, Scott. So welcome.
Well, Dave, good to see you again. Good to see you again. I think we first met way back in Louisville.
We did.
Yeah. And Dave, what is his pastor's?
Oh no, Butler.
David Butler.
I
Yes.
just texted with him
Yeah. And
last
then I
month.
saw him. I went to his church. He was up in maybe
Boston,
New Hampshire,
New
New,
Hampshire. Yeah,
New Hampshire.
yeah.
That was a
So,
really fun experience too.
yes,
So
church planter at heart. I think
yeah, yeah,
he's trying to
yeah.
run around helping all the Southern Baptists plant their churches. And I think I'm going to see him in the next 60 days at one of our
Oh,
trainings, full circle.
very good.
Oh,
Very
okay.
good.
Introduce yourself. I don't know. Am I calling you Bishop McKnight, Mr.
No, no.
McKnight, Doctor Scott?
Just Scot McKnight. Yeah,
Scott
I go by
McKnight.
my name. That's what my parents call me.
I'm really interested in the answer to this question. Who are you and what are you
Yeah.
doing?
Okay. Well, Scot McKnight, and I'm 72 years old. I've been a professor for 42, 43 years, something like that.
Right on.
Um, and I'm now, I teach two courses a year now. I
Okay.
teach one course at Houston Theological Seminary, connected to Houston Christian University.
Okay.
I was invited there by my good friend Lynn Coick, who uh, runs she's involved in a multitude of things.
Yeah.
And I teach one course in England at Westminster Theological Center, WTC, and Lucy Pepiot was the principal there. It is now Ben Blackwell, and I
Okay.
teach 1 week. And this September, I taught a course at Nottingham University. It's the first time I had been back to where I did my doctorate since I defended my thesis in March of 1986.
How about
So it
that?
was about 40 years, and I talked my way into the library, and I said, like, will you let me go to the floor where the theology books are? They said, sure,
Wow.
we'll let you go. So I went up there and I found the office that I had where I did all my reading and writing.
Do you remember what was the first class you ever taught? Do you remember this?
Yes, I do. I taught in 1980 to 1981 a course at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School called Greek Exegesis 1.
Okay.
And then in the winter, I taught Exegesis 2. And I carry a picture of the
Mm,
students in that class.
mm.
Well, I can't remember where I carry it, but oh, I carried it in something over here. And I posted it online about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And it was fun. I'm glad I wrote the names of the students on the back because I wouldn't remember most of them. But
Do
that was a
you
great experience.
are you do you how do you fundamentally see yourself? Are you a teacher or are you who happens to be a theologian? Or are you a theologian who has taught because that pays the bills? What how do you what are who are you when at your core?
Um, Teaching and paying bills is a very generous description.
I
Um,
guess I could have thrown in author.
I wanted to be a professor and a writer
Okay.
when I was in college. That's what I wanted to do. I loved to read. I loved the Bible. I loved the
Mhm.
church, and I wanted to write. But to me, the only place to do that is to be a professor. So I pursued a PhD,
Yeah.
a master's degree, then a PhD, and but I think over time I saw myself the writing was really important to me because it stimulated all my classes. I mean, I didn't write to stimulate classes. I wrote because it was a passion, and the writing stimulated classes, and classes stimulate questions for me that pop up sometimes of my own will. I mean, I just all of a sudden start wondering about something,
Yeah.
turns into a chapter or something. And but writing, I think, is the way I see myself now. And teaching is the verbal expression of what I'm writing about. But I mean, you never write about
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
you teach.
Yeah.
I've taught in my lifetime something like 55 different classes, taught, courses. So, I mean,
So you
I've
write
written
what
on
you're
some of them.
wondering about, you said. I love that. What are
You
you
what? Yeah.
wondering about right now?
Well, right now I'm wondering about the Sermon on the Mount because I'm writing a commentary on the Gospel of Matthew.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering about a very old-fashioned idea whether the Gospel of Matthew was written for Jewish believers
Uh-huh.
or whether it was written for Gentile believers or both. I'm leaning toward the first. I'm wondering about that. I'm wondering about, as I have for 45 years, I'm wondering about the significance of discipleship
Oh
for
man.
the church
Yeah.
and the lack and how the gospel that we
Hmm.
present
Hmm.
does not lead to discipleship. I say it all the time. It leads to decisions.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Jesus wasn't occupied that way. He was forming apprentices who would carry on and expand and extend his mission to other people in, let's say, Galilee.
Mm.
Um, so that's one thing. I'm also wondering about a president and an administration that seems not to care about law.
Hmm.
I wonder about that.
You writing about that?
Only, I have a Substack. It
Yes.
started as a
Yes.
blog, it
Yep.
started as a
Yep.
blog
Yes.
way back 20 some years ago.
Yes.
But I write about these things only in conjunction with reading books of people
Yeah.
who are specialists in
Right.
the field. So
Right.
I found an amazing book this year. I've always read Randall Balmer. His father actually was pastor for my parents for a while. And I didn't meet Randy when he was in seminary. We overlapped a little bit, I think. But I think I've read almost all his books. But this newest book on America's Greatest Idea, Best Idea, on the First Amendment,
Mm.
I just found to be such a good book because every chapter was a different story, was a different episode
Yeah.
in the history of how
Yeah.
basically the United States has struggled and wrestled with the issue of the non-establishment of religion and the
Yeah.
separation of church and state.
Yep.
And every chapter was a different episode. And I thought, this is such an excellent book. It's a little book. I don't have it right next to me here. It's upstairs. But I wonder about that. Um, I wonder about the church.
Yeah.
Um, Dave, people in good churches, people go to church 2 out of 4, half the time.
Yeah.
That is just an odd number for me,
Yeah.
because I grew up in a world where you went to
Yeah.
church Sunday morning for Sunday school, Sunday
Yep.
for the service, Sunday
Yep.
evening
Yep.
for whatever they called it, I
Hmm.
guess. And then Sunday after that, it was youth
Mhm.
group after church and Sunday evening. And then we went to church on Wednesday night for prayer meeting. And my mom and dad were
Mhm.
in the choir. My mom was a choir director. We went to church on Thursday night as well.
Yeah.
Um, I'm there's something about that's going on in church. COVID exacerbated it.
Yeah.
And, I think that it's going to be a slow recovery
Yeah.
of the kind of commitment that is needed for a
Yeah.
church to become really a church.
Scott, I think one thing that I see is and this is your crowd, the young 20 somethings that are passionate. There's one level of it that feels like nationalism, and I'm not talking about that. Okay. I
Yeah.
understand. There's that whole thing. I don't even want to touch it. This other thing of what it really means to sacrificially be a disciple and follow and allow the things of Jesus, this 2,000-year-old, well, older than that, but the 2,000-year-old story since Christ, to actually affect people's lives and change their behaviors and to do the fundamental things that you're pushing on that we've kind of lost in our country about loving our neighbor, caring about
Hmm.
justice. We could go forever right there if we wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see a passion there, man. I see a passion there. I
Yeah.
see them Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, eating together. Living. I mean, we've had waves of this. I go back to maybe in 2000, Leonard Sweet in the early 2000s, house church movements, and all my megachurch friends that did that and then came back to the megachurch because that was weird. I mean, there have been times, right? But this feels. I'm not a I'm not an expert in history, but it feels more like the Jesus people, the early 70s, the fundamental shift that's sort of going on. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the I just read today um, a tirade, a rant
Yeah.
by an old Anglican priest against a church in the Wheaton area,
Yeah.
Wheaton, Illinois,
Yeah.
because they were involved in the ICE seizures,
Right.
and they were involved in social justice agendas.
Right.
And it was like this old guy is telling people, this guy I've known, David Roseberry, he's blasting away at these people because that's not what a church is for.
That's right.
Well, what he's talking about
Yeah. Right.
is um, church for him is about sacraments and preaching.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this means this is what Sunday service for him is about.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't anchor that in the Bible. I don't care if it is in the
Right.
Articles of Religion for the Church of England and the Anglican churches. The Bible's churches were fellowships
Yeah.
of people, and education was involved, uh, and sacrament, if you want to call it that, was involved. But the idea that they were preaching sermons, the way we preach sermons,
Right.
is nonsense. They were talking with one another, and so I think what I see in this church in Wheaton, and I know these people,
Mm-hmm.
is a healthy balance. And
Mm-hmm.
as I was reading this, I thought, this is a way of turning off a generation
Yeah.
that recognizes
Yeah.
that the gospel of Jesus calls people toward justice as well.
Right.
And Christians who don't participate in justice activities in the world are heartless.
Mm-hmm.
And so I see
Mm-hmm.
the passion of that young generation as doing a lot of good. If they decide to abandon the church, and we can define what church is.
Right.
This is
Right.
a debate.
Right. Right.
But, let's say, abandon fellowship with fellow Christians and growth together,
Yeah.
then I think that's a concern. Then it just becomes political action.
Right.
But when you read the gospel, when you read the prophets, when you read the Torah, when you read the history of Israel, when you read the Gospels, when you read even Paul, when you read the book of Revelation, these people care
Mm-hmm.
about justice.
Sure.
And it is not an either or, it is a both
Both
and.
and.
And I think it ought to work from the church out into the community
Yeah.
rather than just in the community. But the church that doesn't participate in the community has sealed itself off from the world that God made.
That's right.
So is that okay? I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm talking about what you're talking about or not.
I think you're talking about exactly what I'm talking about. And I think it must be really hard. I will tell you because of what I did in my 20s and 30s. It's really hard for me to sit through anything, Scott, not just a church service, but any concert, any program, any event, because I spent 15, 20 years, producing events. Some were
Hmm.
Sunday mornings, right? And I know you and I, we've both been to some like this where you stand
Hmm.
in the back of the room, is this working or not? So it's really hard for me, audio, video, lighting, pace of thing. Did it go more than 65 minutes? All those things. It must be really hard for you to sit through sermons knowing what
Oh,
you know.
you know what?
Is it hard? Are you sitting there like, that's not at all what he meant? That's not what that meant. You
Yeah, yeah.
totally
I
took that out of,
sometimes I,
that's not the historical context of that
yeah.
when that was. You must be sitting there. How do you not do that?
Well, I
Or
do
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 you? Or
that.
do you? Yeah,
In
right.
fact, I wrote Jesus Creed because of a
Right. Right.
horrible sermon by Bill Hybels one time. But the
I love that.
yeah, I mean, I do, but I'm not there to learn.
Right.
I'm there to worship, to enjoy other people,
Right.
to sing, to listen to the prayers and pray,
Right.
to hear a sermon. I find most preachers are pretty serious about what they're doing and they
Yep.
work hard at it.
Yep.
They try. It's a very difficult thing to stand in front of, let's say, anywhere from any audience
Yeah.
and preach a sermon.
That's
But
right.
let's say 100 to 200 people,
Yeah.
you're in front of them.
Yeah.
And that's not very big, but it's
Yep.
very hard
Hmm.
to say something that would be meaningful to
Right.
every person there.
That's right.
Very difficult. And when you take into consideration ages,
Yeah.
it gets even more complicated.
Yeah.
So the task of preaching is enormously difficult.
Mm.
And I think over time, let's say an effective preacher, however you want to define it, will attract a culture of people who want to hear that kind of preaching.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So if they want to hear a verse by verse Bible exposition teaching like it was a Bible college class,
Hmm.
then they're not going to listen to the person who preaches skilled narrative sermons like Austin Carty in South Carolina, Anderson, South Carolina, or Tom. I can't think of Tom Long sermons, and he's um, a great preacher,
Mm.
taught major seminaries. They're not going to like that kind of sermon. They want something else. So they go to a different church. But it's very difficult. Just the inherent task of standing up there and talking
Yeah.
to that many different people who have a mind of their own
Yeah.
and to think that you're going to communicate effectively every week. It's impossible.
Let
So
alone when you look out and some are asleep or their resting face is scowling at you. I don't mean to scowl at you when you're up there, Scott. It's just my resting face. How do you
yeah,
do it 50 weeks a year? It's
that's
not
right.
easy.
It's hard. Yeah, very difficult.
Let's talk about education. Tell
Yeah.
me, professor, when you began it, how has education, you're going to have to dumb this down, right? For me and explain it to a third grader. No, not third grade, preschooler. I don't want to insult third graders. Explain how has education changed?
Well, you're talking to someone who taught for 12 years at a seminary,
Yep.
fairly um, a seminary that regarded itself as cream of the crop, Trinity Evangelical Divinity School.
Mhm.
Then I taught 17 years of undergraduate students at a college in Chicago, where I would teach a Jesus of Nazareth course nearly every semester, 8 o'clock in the morning, and Tuesday and Thursday. And I would have sometimes 90 students, 100 students in class. And at best, you could say 33 to 50% were Christians. So that's a completely different form of education. And then I taught at another seminary for about 12 years, 11 years. And now I'm teaching seminary students, graduate students. So that's the picture. I didn't teach high school students, and I
Mhm.
didn't teach at the same level the whole time.
Mhm.
But here's a couple major things that I've seen a change in, and when I first started teaching in seminary, students were coming to the seminary from mostly, a lot of them, from a Bible college background, or they came to learn the Bible.
Mm.
All right. They wanted to study the Bible. So Bible books mattered to them. Commentaries mattered to them. Um, when I went to teach undergrads, first of all, I'm teaching a lot of students who aren't Christians, let's just say 50%. So we'll just knock them right off the chart. We're not caring. But the students that I was teaching, I thought, wow, they don't know anything about the Bible. And this made me aware that a fundamental task of churches is to educate young Christians in the faith, and that includes learning the Bible, learning about reading portions of the Bible, studying it, learning, let's say, some techniques of reading. And then when I began to teach seminary again, I was stunned by the difference between the students that I first taught when I began teaching in seminary and the students I was teaching. And now this was like almost 20 years later. And I would come home and I'd tell Chris, the students in my seminary classes don't know any more about the Bible than my college students.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Now, a lot of those students had changed because they weren't coming to the new seminary, the second seminary I taught at, from a Bible college background. The students who did come from a Bible college background stood out for me in their knowledge of the Bible, and it helped.
Yeah.
It helped the classroom because they could stimulate further discussions. But I would say the big difference for me in teaching is the shift in the importance of Bible knowledge, basic Bible knowledge, and basic Bible reading as a fundamental Christian discipline that would prepare somebody for education.
Yeah.
And I found that here's where I will pin the blame. As a general rule, churches in, let's say, the 80s, and I'm looking at mega churches here,
Yeah, sure.
began to preach series that were heartfelt, relevant messages about common human issues, rather than expounding scripture. Now, I know they would look at the Bible, but they might just have a verse or two.
Right.
And they put it on the screen.
It's on the screen.
You know, it's really cool. You don't even have to have your Bible. People didn't bring their Bibles to church.
Right.
When I grew up, everybody carried their Schofield Bible to church. And if they didn't have a Schofield Bible, they had one of those giveaway Bibles that the church gave them that had red gilt edges rather than gold gilt edges, which is the leather Bible and the Schofield Bible. I still have my Schofield Bible somewhere, the original Schofield. So I think that's a major change.
Yeah.
And what we gained in relevance, we lost in biblical skill of knowing the Bible. And I find this particularly frustrating because I'm persuaded, David, that the evangelical church that I think you're probably as connected to as I am, probably more.
Yeah.
The evangelical church is a Paul-based church rather than a Jesus-based church. At least it was.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I think that's shifting.
Yeah.
But what that meant for me was, it was stunning to me the number of Christians who had no idea what kingdom meant for Jesus. I mean, after all, this is his big word. And what they meant by, what they thought it meant was what Paul said, and that's justification by faith.
Yeah.
And that's totally wrong.
Yeah.
And so the education on the meaning of the kingdom is a steep uphill battle that I've been involved in for over 40 years.
All right, let me ask you the question that I get. Here's a question.
Okay.
My kid wants to be a youth pastor. He's 18. She's 18. They want to be that guy. They want to be like that person. Where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah.
You ever get that question?
Oh
or
yeah.
you're,
I
of
mean,
course.
when I was teaching at North Park,
Yeah.
a lot of my students were youth ministry majors,
Yeah.
and they had a vibrant,
Yeah.
wonderful youth ministry going with Ginny Olson.
Yep.
Um, and it was really, it was
Yeah.
fun to have those students.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The first thing I would say is what they're expressing is imitation. They're expressing what we would call in discipleship. They want to
Sure.
be like that person
Yeah.
because that person is winsome,
Mm-hmm.
loving,
Yeah.
and has become a role model for
Yeah.
them. Okay. And I think that's a really good thing. So I think I would say to them, um, I think it's a good thing that you are interested in youth ministry when you go to college, and I would encourage them to go to college. When you go to
Right.
college, you will need to be involved in a church or some kind of campus ministry
Yep.
where you will shift your relationship from the current youth pastor to someone else.
Yeah.
And that will be a growing relationship
Yes.
and it will be healthy. And when you're in college, you will be able to decide whether you want to continue on the path of being a youth pastor.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a fundamental aspect of Christian spiritual development is to understand that spirituality is primarily about formation rather than information,
Mm-hmm.
and formation is primarily developed on the basis of relationship rather than, let's just say, study and reading the
Yeah.
Bible. Okay. So, fine, I would tell them that when they get to college, when they leave that current youth pastor, and I would encourage them to say that's a healthy relationship.
Yes.
I had this
Yeah.
with a youth pastor
Yeah.
when I was in high school. We loved David King.
Yeah.
Chris and I both did.
Yeah.
And he would make pizzas for us every about once a week. We would go to his house and he'd make so he could kind of preach to us, you know. Um, but he was it was a wonderful man and it was a great relationship. And then I went off to college and he left the church and he moved out to Virginia or West Virginia or something. And we never really even saw him again. He died
Mm.
as a young man
Mm.
from cancer.
Mm.
But I would say that's a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
But your relationships are going to change over time and you're going to find other role models and you'll learn. But the fundamental thing that happens is most of them don't become youth pastors.
Right.
They find another role model when they're in
Yeah.
college.
That's right.
So I would say encourage them to find a youth pastor type minister in their college wherever they go, whether they
Yeah.
go to a Christian college or a university. And if they go to a university, find a church
Yeah.
where they can get to know a spiritually formed older adult that
Yeah.
can work with them and form them. And then over time, I think that they will begin to settle into what they think God has called them to do.
Yeah.
But the percentage of those who want to be pastors or who want to be youth pastors when they're in high school and those who actually become that, I think is pretty low. So spiritual formation is the primary category that want I'd want to morph that into spiritual formation.
If you had
How's
to,
that?
yeah, it's great. If you have to give the short answer to should everyone who teaches and preaches, I kind of draw a line from in my world. You got worship leaders, you got full-time employees at a church back running the soundboard, and we call them pastor, pastor of production or some guest service. You got all these jobs. But then you've got a couple of roles, the people that stand up and talk. Sunday mornings, the preachers and the youth pastors to me. You're teaching middle school and high school kids, or you're teaching the adults. We used to say upstairs, in the real church,
Hmm.
but now it's across the campus or something. But I make a distinction between those two groups. Do you make in your mind when you're thinking about if someone's asking you for advice on the educational path? Are you going to preach? Are you going to be a youth pastor? That's a different thing. Or do you're like, no, no, no. We need everyone, we need everyone educated to a certain level here. What's your king for the day, and you get to make that call. Your advice knowing what you know.
Well, okay, let's just say this. The fundamental role of, I'll just use the word that I don't particularly like, of a leader in a church is pastoring. Okay?
You said
Not
that to me
preaching.
before. Here's a word I
Yeah.
don't like.
Yeah. Well,
Leader.
because what's happened, the business world has reshaped too much of what we mean by leadership.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. But the fundamental role of a pastor is pastoring people, not preaching sermons on Sunday morning. Okay. So I would ask the question, and I think this has been a mistake because I believe that a lot of seminaries, Christian colleges that turned out tons of hack preachers, and a lot of them really gifted, like a guy like Dave Ferguson in Chicagoland, Gene Apple. I think a lot of these people um, don't understand that the fundamental task in growing up is pastoring, and seminaries in particular are not gifted, are not skilled, are not designed to nurture people with pastoral skills. They're primarily designed to nurture intellectual skills in various disciplines like New Testament and Old Testament and church history and systematic theology, etc. Then they get into the preaching classes or the pastoral classes, and then all of a sudden they've got pastors teaching them,
Mm.
and they all the stories are coming out of the church. And a lot of these people who want to be pastors love that, and the
Hmm.
people who want to exegete Greek sentences are bored to tears by it, and they think, "Why am I doing this? I want to go back and take the New Testament or the Old Testament class or the systematic. I want to be like that professor rather
Yes.
than like that pastor."
Yeah.
So I think what we need when it comes to education is less the word education and more the idea of formation. And that is, we need to nurture formation of pastoral skills, of the pastoral gift. And I can tell you that I've sat in classes with a lot of students,
Hmm.
and it's not hard to spot those who have the skills of pastoring.
Mm.
And a lot of them see that their gifts are that way, and a lot of others want to become professors, and they inflict their gift
Yeah.
upon churches that are
Yeah.
bored on Sunday
Right.
morning because they
Right.
don't want to go back and learn Greek.
Right.
So I see it as the thing that we need to focus on formation of people to do, let's say, forming pastoral giftedness in churches. And I think it's a gift, and I think it can be formed by people who know what they're doing.
Yeah. Do you separate? We talk about developing, well, I'm going to use the word that you hate, leadership development, developing leaders. And we separate education. We say education, we need leaders that are smarter than ever. And I mean everything from biblical understanding and knowledge, as well as do they know if you're going to be a youth pastor today, you better know what's going on in the brain of a kid. You better know
Mm-hmm.
what they're up against culturally. What, all these, I mean, you have to be smart. You cannot phone this in. You have to be smart and educated, and you have to be spiritually formed. We talk about spiritual formation, spirit
Mm-hmm.
education. You don't separate those in your mind, or do you? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't think, see, I'd come at this, Dave, from a professor's point of view.
Yeah.
And for me, no, I don't want to see those as different.
Okay.
Is that learning what kingdom
Learning.
means is to learn how to live as a kingdom citizen in the world Jesus wants us to live in.
Yeah.
But I think you can distinguish the two. I mean, people do. So there you go. And so I can have them read a book on Kingdom of God,
Hmm.
and they'll read George Ladd, and they'll go, "Oh, that's a lot of stuff there." And but they will come away from that better. And so I do believe in the importance of education, and I do believe in leadership. I mean, the New Testament word for this is someone who stands before or stands in
Yeah.
front. It's not used very often, but it is
Right.
it is there. Um, and that is that's a leader, but it's a leader in Christ likeness. It's a leader in following Christ. It's not a leader who is an entrepreneur trying to
Right.
create a brand
Right.
and a product.
Right.
And that's
I
where
love it.
I that's where I get irritated by lead. And so I was asked many years ago, back in the emerging days, to write an essay
Mhm.
on leadership, and I wrote it on followership.
Mhm.
And I thought I was being snarky, and I was, but it was pretty good, you know. And I think this is what we need to nurture is
Mm.
followership, is becoming a follower of Jesus. And that's, you know, a true leader in the church is an accomplished follower of Jesus,
Mm.
not someone who can. And I like it that they can preach really good sermons,
Yeah.
but one of the best pastors I've ever known was not all that good of a preacher,
Hmm.
but he was so loving and Jesus-like
Yeah.
that people drank in everything he had to say.
You would say good pastors are leaders, but
Yes.
perhaps not all good leaders are pastors. Am I saying
I
that
don't
right?
th okay, I'm willing to say that no good leader, a good leader,
Yeah.
has to have pastoral skills because they
Correct.
have to have relational skills
Yeah.
at nurturing other people.
Yeah.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
like that, but that's not where, when I look at literature on leadership,
Yeah.
I just go, oh, brother.
Sure, sure, sure.
They haven't even looked at the pastoral epistles, you know.
Right, right,
They haven't even looked at Paul's life or
right,
Jesus's life. They
right,
haven't even looked at this stuff.
right.
They read some guy, you know,
Yeah.
Peter, what's his name? So
Drucker?
Drucker. Peter, they've read, I don't know anything about Peter Drucker other than he said, culture eats strategy
The
or something
strategy for
like that.
breakfast.
Yeah, that's right.
Culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yes.
Hashtag leadership.
Okay, but character
Oh,
eats
dude.
culture.
Listen, man, you're
Yeah,
not lying. We're living it every day, Scott, in
yeah,
this country right now, from the top
yeah,
down. This stuff
yeah.
matters, doesn't it?
It really does.
I
Yeah.
keep saying that to, I mean, hopefully most of them have tuned out by now, so they won't hear this. But I keep saying that to my friends and people that I love, and they don't think it matters. They don't think it matters. They think making sure gas is cheap enough to put in their SUV and that their stock profile is up and these things is what matters. I'm like, no, I think it matters who's in charge, who we looking at.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
especially if you're 7 or 8, 9, 10 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's where, you know, the ancient form of education was formation shaped by imitation.
Okay.
So you found someone you wanted to be like,
Yeah,
and you weaseled your way into their inner circle.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how formation
Yeah.
occurred.
Right.
And so, you know, the idea that people who are in the inner circle, C.S. Lewis wrote a brilliant essay about this, but it's so important,
Yeah.
is to be in the circle of the people that you feel gifted to be like,
Right.
to be with them,
Yeah.
spend time with them, learn from them, ask them questions, observe them.
Right.
This is what the disciples did. They observed Jesus, and then they extended Jesus into other Galilean villages.
Well, Scott, when people say I want to form leaders like Jesus, they actually wouldn't use that word. I'm using your words.
Yeah.
They want to form leaders like Jesus. And I usually say, well, then sell your car and get rid of your phone and just walk. Because if we found this person we wanted to emulate, to your point, and we just walked, we wouldn't need a health coach and we wouldn't need a therapist and we would sleep well. We if you and I were going to go 10 miles that direction and hold some revival meetings and you were going to heal a bunch of people, I'd be your disciple because it would take have 3/4 of the day just to get there before we ever
Hmm.
started.
Hmm.
We run it forward a couple thousand years.
Yeah.
Here we are. What we're trying to help people understand is having a developmental conversation, is what we would call it. Cannot happen from the backseat of an Uber on FaceTime as you head to the airport. You have to
Mm-hmm.
sit down, you have to talk. People are like, how
Mm-hmm.
does this? They've asked since day one, how does this scale? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it does scale. I think it's talking and it's one on one and it's building relationships with young leaders, not giving up on them. Everyone wants to talk about the crisis of Generation Z. I think the crisis is the bosses. The crisis from where we're embedded, the crisis is in the 35-year-old who doesn't have an hour, 1 hour to sit down and talk about true truths and what's going on in this person's life and speak into their life. That's where the crisis is. Hopefully, people have turned this video off by now. They're not watching this anymore as I say these things. But that's what we're trying. That's the problem we're addressing. Is
Well,
that
I think
crazy
you're,
talk?
no, no, I think it's right. I mean, let me give you an off-brand example. Okay. So, you talk to people who are young adults and you ask them if they can be involved in a Bible study. And they will frequently say to you, Monday night we do this, Tuesday night we do this, Wednesday night, Thursday. People are so busy that they don't have time to do anything other than make money and take care of their home and their home life. And taking care of their home life is very important, and a job is important. But the cultivation of friendship,
Mm,
the cultivation of relationships
yeah.
with people is sorely neglected in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is because our home entertainment systems are so amazing.
They're amazing.
We can do anything we want any time of the day. I mean, I don't know what some people are paying because we still have just Xfinity, that's what we have. We don't have X, although we do subscribe to the Major League Baseball
Of
network. Okay,
course.
so we get to watch baseball,
Yes.
Cleveland Guardians. But but you can watch all the movies you want on your at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't ever have to leave
Yeah.
your house. And you know, I'm a golfer, and I
Okay.
play with my son and my grandson,
Yeah.
and sometimes with others. And those are, sometimes 2 to 5 hour
Yeah.
times with other people where you
Yeah.
just get to know one
That's
another.
right.
But I think being involved in our community in friendship relations,
Yeah.
and not just working
Yep.
60 hours a week is
Yep.
fundamental to human growth and to spiritual growth. I don't know if I'm talking what you're talking about.
No, I think you're talking. I think we normally talk about being within proximity of people as
Hmm.
understanding the other, like the famous Abraham Lincoln, that man scares me. I need to get to know him, I think was the quote I've heard. Maybe I'm misquoting there. He
I don't
scares
know that
me.
one.
I need to get to know that person. We think of it that way in the current conversation about algorithms and being divided like we are politically, racially, all the things, right? But we don't, on the other side, we have to have proximity. We have to have time to build
Hmm.
relationships so that we can at some point sharpen one another, form one into the likeness of Jesus.
Hmm.
You would think, Scott, when we're employed at a church, this would be second nature. And I personally, I tell people every day, I see it in a for-profit space. It's a size of company thing. Once a company is large enough, they have enough employees, they can have people who are there to care. They can have people there to help educate, inform, and advance in culture. But most of us in church work, we never get to that size, right? We're over here in a normal, it's big. It's a normal church of 500 with 6 employees. We're all freaking out, working too much.
Hmm.
You put a young leader there to be formed.
And you're going to put them on a treadmill of working
Treadmill. That is right.
60 hours.
People
That's why
my age,
Dan.
I'm 55 this year. My wife doesn't like it when I say that, but I'm 55. People my age and older are really into this conversation. Legacy,
Right.
what am I going to leave? I had one this morning, incredible guy, planted a church, and he's been there 25 years. He's really interested on this topic. People at the top, people at the bottom, the interns, the young adults are passionate about this stuff. The people in the middle, we call them department heads. Middle management is what we call them in the marketplace, but in church world, these are youth, kids, worship leaders who take the interns on, and it's their job
Hmm.
to help do it. No one did it for them, by the way, most of the
No,
time,
yeah,
Scott.
no, that's right. That's right.
10 were pushed off the dock, one survived, and they're still there 8 years later. And now you hand them someone to form. There's the crisis to my perspective. I think no one has statistics and we just make them up anyway. I've long believed there's enough, pipelines. If I hear it again, pipelines of leaders, there's enough in the pipe coming out of these places to fill all the roles. And where are they 18 months later? Where are they 6 months later when they go into these places? They are burned out, chewed up, spit out, right? There's the crisis. And I think that has changed for us in the last 5 years. Maybe
Hmm.
10 years ago, if we'd been having this conversation, I'd be like grumpy old man. Let's get the kids working. Let's get these kids up to our speed, and I think this has changed for Leadership Pathway, our little organization. It's the we've shined the light on young adults, but really the spotlight of responsibility. It's the 33 to 43-year old. Those are the those are the people that roll their eyes at us a little bit. Kids these days. A
You know,
33-year-old veteran leader going kids these days.
yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, you can't give up. You can't give up that easily. You can't give up that easily."
I was thinking back when I began teaching, let's say the first 5 years,
Hmm.
and I've already said where it was.
Yeah.
No one who was a professor ever came into my classroom
Oh,
and listened
yeah.
and watched, not once.
Yeah.
And it was probably needed to be 10 times
Mm-hmm.
to watch
Mm-hmm.
and then to sit down and say, these are your gifts.
Yeah.
These are what you're good at. This is what you need to improve on.
Right.
It never happened. I
Right.
learned to teach by teaching.
Yeah.
Okay. And by following examples of people I liked, that
Mm-hmm.
I loved. I'm one of
Yeah.
the teachers I tried to imitate. I tried to imitate because I loved him so
Yeah.
much, but I
Yeah.
wasn't like him. I couldn't
Yeah.
do what he did.
Yeah. Right.
In fact, I was more dynamic than he was. I had more life in the classroom than he did.
Yes.
But um, that's where I think, so let's just say if the older people will invest their time with the younger people observing
Mm-hmm.
and over time, and not just
Mm-hmm.
once.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I heard you preach one time, I know what your gifts are.
Right.
Baloney.
Right.
You need to listen to someone 10,
Right.
15 times
That is right.
to know whether they're what their strengths and weaknesses are. And even
Yeah.
then, you probably don't pick it all up
Yeah.
because they're going to grow themselves.
That's right.
So, well, this has been fun.
This is exactly how I thought this conversation would go.
Okay.
I have 5 or 6 things I thought I was going to ask you. I've asked you none of it, but it's been such a great conversation. Where can people find you? Scott
Well,
McKnight,
yes, I'm on a Substack, Scot
Substack.
McKnight
Okay.
Substack, one T and Scott,
Yeah.
and I have books that they can find on Amazon
Yeah.
or however they buy them.
What's the favorite book? Okay, one more question. What's your favorite book you've written?
I always tell people the same answer. The last one I wrote.
I thought you were going to say the next one.
Well, that's always fun too. I've got a book I'm working on, Jesus and Women, with Lucy
Yeah.
Pepiot in
Yeah.
England.
Yeah.
is really fun, and I can't wait till she sends her edits back,
Yeah.
her suggestions and revisions and writings, so that I can edit it a final time and send it off to the publisher. So that's been fun.
Okay.
But I love writing this commentary on Matthew.
Mm.
So, but you know, Jesus Creed was is probably, and The Blue Parakeet. Those are the two most influential books.
I met you
Probably
during Jesus Creed.
the
That's
one
when I
that I
met you,
really,
I
oh,
think.
yeah,
Jesus
yeah,
Creed.
that was because of that book.
Yeah.
But I think King Jesus is one of the most significant books I wrote.
Okay.
So,
Well, this is your gift. Thank you for an hour.
yes,
I know
thank
you didn't
you.
have it to give. I appreciate that.
Oh, I did have it to give. That's
Scot
the
McKnight,
problem.
thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Good to see you, Dave.
Take care.